All right. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at, everyone. And thank you for joining the ACRL Image Resources Interest Group for our June discussion forum. Our original plans were for this to be an in-person meeting during the ALA conference in Chicago. But as with so many other meetings and conferences these days, we're holding it virtually instead. We have two different talks today, followed by a couple business items at the end. And just to reiterate, as Elois mentioned, this meeting is being recorded. All attendees will receive a link to the recording, and as well, I will post the link on the Image Resources Interest Group's Google site. And I think you've all got your microphones muted. And I think what we may do is you can, at the end of each talk, you can either type your question in the chat or you can unmute to ask a question. So let's begin with our first talk, and this is presented by John Burns, who is Electronic Resources Librarian and Science, Art, and Mechanical Engineering Librarian at Dixie State University, which is in Utah. And John, as his first slide shows, is speaking on teaching Creative Commons licensing in the virtual environment. So John, please go ahead.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks for everybody for being here. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, and hopefully the slides are working. Yeah, thanks for this opportunity to speak. I love taking advantage of these types of things because I just really believe strongly in giving back. ACRL has been very good to me in my career, so it's a great opportunity to give back to a great organization. So yeah, Dixie State University is in St. George, Utah. That's in the southern tip of the state of Utah. We're about 45 minutes from the Arizona border, and we're about 30 or so minutes from Zion National Park. Really beautiful area of the country and extremely hot right now. So we are a growing university. We're actually trending just incredible growth right now. When everybody else seems to be shrinking, our administrators often tell us that they go to conferences and hear about budget cuts, and when we're actually doing quite a bit of growth. A lot of that comes from the area that we live in, the area that we serve. We have a lot of need that we're trying to fulfill. So we recently just became a university, and we recently just started offering the first ever master's degrees at our institution. So it's really exciting. For librarians, it's a little bit challenging. We don't have quite as many as we really should compared to other institutions of our size in the state of Utah. So we wear many hats. So yeah, I'm the solo art librarian. I handle electronic resources, but I also liaison to sciences and mechanical engineering, which is a brand new program to us as well. So it's an exciting time to be at my institution. A lot of times I do have faculty and students that come in and want to know more about Creative Commons. And we've had, with everything going on with COVID-19 and a lot of things moving online, I do quite a bit of teaching online. And so I've actually had to create some things in the virtual setting to help people understand Creative Commons. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So let's see if I can get these slides to advance here. There we go. So from my experience, most often students just want to know, hey, can I use this image in a paper or project? By far, that's the most common question out there from students. Every once in a while, they might have a creative work that they want to know how to use Creative Commons or how to apply Creative Commons to something they've created. But more often than not, they're looking to understand, how do I use something? How do I understand what all the Creative Commons labeling is? Some students will see the labels and not even know what it's referring to. So I'm going to mostly talk about how I really have had the most success of getting help to students by just pointing them in the right direction and keeping things pretty simple. faculty often just want to know, can I use this in a course, this image, any kind of image that they are thinking of using in a course. We use the learning management system called Canvas, which is fairly popular. Many of you probably heard of it or use it. So we really like Canvas. We've had to obviously create a lot of content and things in Canvas when we had to move a lot of our courses online, which will likely continue in the fall. They also want to know, could I use this in my own research or any publication that they might be working on? But either groups, faculty or students, they both want to know, every once in a while, they want to know how to apply it to their own creations. So there are lots of ways to teach this virtually. A lot of times I'm using my LibGuides to push content out, and then when I get questions, I can just email or send out the direct link to the LibGuide page. We are heavy LibGuide users at our library. Our librarians, including myself, use them a lot because they're just so easy to work with and so easy to put content into. So that's an option where we can host videos there and just links, and if you use LibGuides, you know what I'm talking about. Pre-recorded videos have been helpful. I used to use pre-recorded videos a lot. I'm finding that I'm using them a lot less if I can do something like this that's a synchronous session with somebody. It's like teaching in a classroom where I feel like I can get the feel of understanding better when it's synchronous like this, or if I'm teaching somebody, if they're right in front of me or in the classroom. So I tend to use pre-recorded videos as a last resort. I'd rather just try to talk with them on the phone, do some screen sharing in something like Zoom. Because again, it's just easier to kind of get a feel for, are they understanding, and it's easier to teach, I think, that way too. Which brings to the next bullet point of, there's different tools that you can use. I put 4 of the really popular ones, and I'll just kind of briefly compare those towards the end as far as which ones I've really liked and are easiest to use for both myself and on the other end of a student who may not be too tech savvy, or we've even had faculty that I'm surprised can even turn on a computer. They just are not very tech savvy at times. And then also, you can also use things in these tools like voice over IP or on the phone. I've had students be on their computer and they can't get the voice over IP to work, so they'll just call me on the phone. So they can see me on the computer, but I'm really talking to them on the phone, which works just fine too. Here's what I really kind of distill down to teach. Again, I try to initially be really thrifty with what I'm throwing at them. When I first started doing it, I just like, and this maybe is a tendency that we librarians share, is that we just want to give everything, right? We want to give all the information out there. That's what we love. We just like to share information. I quickly discovered that I can easily overwhelm people, and then they're just really confused, and it's almost worse. So simple, stupid. I often have to remind myself of that. Is just keeping it really basic and simple, and always let whoever you're helping know that, hey, we're just going to cover the basics, and then if you do need to dig in deeper into a specific topic or aspect of Creative Commons, then I help them know different ways to get a hold of me, when my office hours are, when my reference hours are, things like that, so we can go into it deeper after they've had time to kind of digest the basics. I often start with the what factor. What is Creative Commons? I find a lot of people, especially students, but some faculty that I've helped, have no idea what it even is, never even heard of it. Obviously skip if necessary, but I've always needed to start here in all my reference transactions on the topic thus far, because it's just a lot of people are just not familiar with it. So I always start with this video. This is a YouTube video that I believe is linked directly off the Creative Commons website, which I'll also bring up in just a second. I don't know if this can work, but let's give it a try. Can everybody see that okay? So I'm just gonna let this play through. It's only about a minute.
Excuse me, the video's not playing.
Okay, so let me get back to my. All right, so that's just there's some music that goes along with it, but it mostly is just a text video that really simply goes over what it is. And so there's tools like this all over the Creative Commons website, and their website is really, really good. It's well designed. I think they've done a really good job of catering to both someone who just wants to come in and scratch the surface, get the fundamentals, but it also caters well to somebody who really wants to dig into one topic or another. But that video I've used on LibGuides before, linking to that. That's really helpful that they created on the Creative Commons website. So again, the website itself is the best place to start. creativecommons.org, very easy to use. I'm going to bring up this link real quick because it's going to take you to the page that just talks about the individual licenses. So hopefully this will come up. So here we are on the website, and this goes
John,
to.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're not seeing any pop-up windows outside of your slides.
Oh, you're not seeing the. Let's see here. I might have to reshare here. How's that?
Great.
Can you see the Creative Commons website now?
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have to stop and restart to when I switch over. So did we not see the video?
No, but that's okay because we'll get the link from the recording and we can watch it after.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, there's like I said, there's lots of videos on the web page, and it was just a quick 1-minute video that they have that has some text and music that walks you through what Creative Commons is. Okay, so this page just starts to go over the licenses. So a lot of times I find that people have seen, like this, the little labels that you'll see, they're usually black and white and gray labels that are affixed to websites or individual images that people will put on their work. And so a lot of times I'm educating people or answering questions about what they are to begin with. What are the licenses? And this page is so great because it's really brief, shows you the image of what they might have seen on a work, or they might see the little acronym, and it just gives about a sentence or two of what that license is and what you can do with it. So as you scroll down, it shows all the individual ones, explaining what are all the little icons on each of the little labels and what they do. So again, another really great place to start, just because it explains things so well. So let me switch back over here. Okay. Should be back to my presentation if that worked right. Oh, let me try that again. Okay, and then there's another video. I'm going to try to show this one now that I know how this works, because this one's really good too. Again, a lot of these are created by Creative Commons people. See if I can get this to switch over. Okay, everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, so this one's about 2 minutes. I'm just going to let this play real quickly so it's really good.
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything from the video. I'm not sure if anybody else is having that issue.
Is anybody else having problems hearing the video?
Yeah, it must be playing through your headphones.
Okay, well, I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint because this is linked in that PowerPoint. So if you'd like to, you know, maybe even for sake of time, if you'd like to go visit, I'll let people go visit it on their own, just since we're having a few problems with the audio. So hang on, let me switch back over here. Yeah, so I have all these links here, and this is the one that we were just looking at. But again, it's very simple, walking through, you know, what the licenses do. And you'll find all kinds of content like this on the Creative Commons website. And so over the years, I've just kind of taken sort of the average questions that I see a lot of, and I go to the Creative Commons website and I kind of pick and choose when I'm creating instruction sessions or libguides on the topic, and I pick and choose what I think is I'm seeing the most questions about. And that's another nice thing about creativecommons.org is there's a lot of really good content in there that you can go kind of craft whatever instruction you need at the time. Again, I really encourage, you know, keeping it really simple so you don't overwhelm your users. Again, here's some other links. I'm not going to play these just so we don't have any tech issues, and you're welcome to go to these afterwards in the recording because you'll have this PowerPoint. But the About page is great. Another great video here that just talks about how to license and mark your own content. So again, that does come up every once in a while where students and faculty want to know how to apply the license to their own work. But in a nutshell, creativecommons.org, it's just pure gold. They've done a really excellent job with it. It's very easy to navigate. The virtual teaching part of it is simple with a little practice. So because all the content you need to teach is on the web, virtual instruction is really easy. A lot of times I'm just, you know, in a session one-on-one with somebody, and I can just bring up the website. I can bring up whatever I'm trying to explain to them, or even a video, or I can just tell them, hey, go to this page and click on this link, walk them through it if they had to. Because again, everything they need, including the labels, downloading the labels, is all online anyway. And really, most of my sessions kind of are just virtual show and tell. I'm just walking them through, showing them as I go. So that's why having video is kind of a plus, even if you're just only able to share your screen with them. So you can kind of not just tell them how to do it over the phone or whatnot, but you can show them at the same time. Our reference desk in our library actually has dual monitors so that we can also do the same thing with people in person. They can be looking at our screen. We just share on 2 different screens so they can see what we're doing. Really just, you need to pick a platform to work with and spend some time testing things out so things run smoothly. That always can be a little frustrating when the tech doesn't work. So here are some of the ones that I have used in the past that really work well. Obviously we're in Zoom right now. Zoom is really good. I've started using Google Meet a lot more too. But these two, well, Zoom, Google Meet, and Skype tend to be the ones that students are the most familiar with. The state of Utah allows a free WebEx business subscription for all of the faculty and librarians, so we do have that to use. If you didn't have that, I don't know that I would recommend WebEx. It's not as user-friendly sometimes. But I just I kind of made this little quick chart of the top features that I have to have if I'm going to use one of these tools. This one's by far the biggest. I have to be able to screen share with them, because again, I don't really want to be telling them what to do or where to go even. I really just prefer to show them, to bring up the website, have them be able to see it on their screen and say, okay, hey, you're interested in this license, we'll go to the About License page, and we scroll down to the one you're looking at, and we'll go over what that covers. Voice over IP, they all have these features. And if you worked with a tool that's not listed here and it didn't have a voice over IP, that's not the end of the world. You could still do things over the phone, and I've done that many times where I just talk to them over the phone. Drawing tools are not a must. If they have them, great, and all of these have them, so you can kind of draw and mark up the screen as you go. That's kind of nice, but again, not 100% necessary. If you just have your cursor and they can follow your cursor, that's usually just all you need. In the video recording, if you wanted to record stuff and then maybe post it later, but if I'm doing any recording, I'm probably making a video. And some of my favorite really easy to use video tools, Camtasia, if you've ever heard of Camtasia, made by a company called TechSmith. Fairly inexpensive, really easy to use, and if you find yourself making a lot of videos for your LibGuides or your website, Camtasia is really good. There's a free one out there called Jing, and people may have used that before, but I honestly hate that tool. It's obvious why it's free. It's not very feature rich. It's easy to use, but it has some limitations. So if you have a few dollars in your budget and you can splurge and get Camtasia, that one's a really good tool. But there are others out there. Chat is not quite as necessary as again, if you're using voice over IP or if you're on the phone, but it is kind of nice if you need it. The ability to search through your recording or whatever you're presenting is helpful, but again, not necessary. I'm finding myself using the last one a lot more. So I like to use tools that allow for this, where if I need to send a file, not so much with teaching Creative Commons, but I've taught other things, how to cite things, and I need to send documents, or a student needs to send me a document. That's kind of nice to be able to do it in the tool. But that's basically it. I don't want to ramble on too much longer, but I did put my contact information up here. I think from what I had heard earlier, we do have a little bit of time for a Q&A. So I don't know how we're going to maybe we're waiting until the end on that, but I also put my email up here. You're more than welcome to send me an email if you have a specific question. I'll see if I can try to help you. But that's it. Thanks for being here.
Great. Thanks very much, John. I had one quick question.
Sure.
Do you teach Creative Commons virtually in a group setting, like a class of students, or is most of your instruction individual, one-on-one instruction?
That's a good question. Most of the time I'm teaching one-on-one, kind of as needed. You know, whenever somebody needs, they'll email me. We even have a tool where people can go to our website, and we have a posted schedule for each of the librarians where they can schedule a time to meet with us. But a lot of times we're just doing one-on-one type things. However, I have had instructors ask me to do like a one-shot instruction session. And so I have taught to larger crowds. And then you just, you know, kind of change things up based on whether you're doing it that way or not. The only thing I haven't done, but I could do, this kind of plays into your question a little bit too, I think, is there could possibly be the need where, let's say you needed to, especially with the times we're dealing with right now, where I might have to host more than one person in something like Zoom. So let's say I had like 10 people that instead of, saying the same thing 10 different times to 10 people individually, it'd be nice to host 10 people and say, hey, we're going to meet at this time in Zoom. Here's the link, much like we're doing now, and then host a bunch of people. All of the ones that I mentioned, all 4 of the tools that I mentioned on their websites will give you information about how many people you can host at a time. And it seems like the trend nowadays for any of the free tools is to host at least 50 people. And I would never need more than that, even for a full class. But if you're ever not sure, just head to the website of the tool you're thinking to use, whether it's Google Meet or Skype or Zoom. Zoom's pretty generous from what I understand. Even with the free one, they allow you to host quite a few people. If that's ever not, if you ever needed more than that, that's when you have to start getting into their paid models. So I think Skype has one called Skype for Business where it allows you to host like over 200 people if you had to. But usually I've never needed more than the amount that they've already given with the free versions. Did that answer your question?
Yes, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have a question? All right. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Not hearing anything. So let's move on to our second group of presenters. And they will be giving us an update on the recent work of the Visual Literacy Task Force. And the presenters, who are all members of the task force, are Katie Greer, who's an associate professor and fine and performing arts librarian at Oakland University, which is in Michigan, and Maggie Murphy, assistant professor and visual art and humanities librarian at University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and Dana Statton Thompson, who is assistant professor and research instruction librarian at Murray State University. So I'll turn it over to you to.
Hey everyone, I am trying to determine if you're seeing my slides or some other window right now.
Yes, seeing your slides.
Great, okay. I'm on a tiny laptop, so it's harder to tell sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Maggie Murphy. I am the incoming convener of IRIG, and I'm joined, like Jane said, by 2 of my colleagues on the Visual Literacy Task Force, and we're going to give you a quick update. Presenting today, I'm with Katie Greer and Dana Statton Thompson. Additional members of the task force include Stephanie Bean, Millie Fulmer, Sarah Schumacher, Tiffany Salter, and Mary Wegman. And we've linked to our website, which is ACRLVLTF.org, where some of our previous presentations, including to this group, are archived, so that you can follow along with our progress up to this point. All right, and Dana's gonna give us some background information.
Yeah, so we've been giving meetings and updating this group with others. And basically, the group was formed back in 2018, and the charge has been to align the visual literacy standards with the framework. And so we are in the process of creating a framework companion document. We've been coming to IRIG or virtually presenting here. We've done a presentation at ARLIS, EMPIRICAL, librarians, IVLA, among other things, all in an effort to kind of illuminate the work that we're doing and that kind of thing. So next slide, Maggie. When we originally started as a task force, it was very internalized. We were working on the document, trying to make changes, and really realized we needed that outsider perspective. We needed to engage with our stakeholders. So we started an empirical research study this past year, I guess last summer, right around this time, because we were, gosh, maybe it's been longer. So we started this research project, and what we've done is we sent out email interviews to 114 people who we identified, either people who, librarians who had written on visual literacy, scholars in the field, people on the board of the IVLA, which is the International Visual Literacy Association. And we have gotten a healthy amount of feedback, right? So we had 2 rounds of interview questions that went out. We had 65 people initially agree to participate and who received the questionnaire. 62 of those returned it with their answers, and then we got 44 people who responded with their answers to the follow-up questions. So we are working through what all of this means, and Katie can tell you more about that.
Thanks, Dana. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we've got a ton of data now that we're sifting through and trying to make meaning out of. As Dana said, we identified a large range of practitioners who worked with visual material and visual literacy. So that included everyone from the obvious, like, you know, the art librarians and things like that. But then we have people who are working in public safety or the sciences. And so what we're doing now is working on coding the document to identify themes that will help us write this companion document. So we initially divided our group up into 3 teams to develop initial code books with some sample sets. And then what we're in the process of doing right now is creating that final code book that our whole group will then use to code and analyze all of the interviews that were conducted. And we're doing an inductive process, so we're kind of letting the data tell us what the themes are and what our stakeholders are truly interested in when it comes to visual literacy and their concerns as they teach it and use it. And Dana's going to tell you also, oh, I should mention too, I've got this linked. We will be using the Deduce platform, which is a pretty cool tool. So if you have to do any coding or things like that, I highly recommend you check it out. And we've got it linked here. And Dana's going to tell you on the next slide about our text analysis portion.
Hey, it's Maggie. I'm actually going to tell you about the text analysis portion. I do want to add, Katie mentioned Deduce. They give you a free month if you use it. So if you don't have that much data and think you can get your whole project coded in a month, it's really the best deal out there for a pretty fancy platform. So we found ourselves in the position where we have a bunch of folks who answered the first round of interview questions, but not the second round. And so methodologically, we didn't want to include responses that weren't as complete in the coding process. And so we decided to take all of the first round responses and look at them using some text analysis methodologies. And so there's another small group within the research team that is looking at some potential techniques using text analysis in Voyant Tools, which is a free web platform that has a bunch of built-in tools. So we've uploaded the interviews as a corpus of documents. So we have 62 of them from the set of respondents gave us their first round interview responses. And so in addition to looking at, you know, what the most frequent terms are overall, we are looking at collocations between the most frequent terms. So obviously you can imagine that visual is the overall most frequent term, which doesn't really tell us very much. But looking at the words that collocate with visual, including media, standards, students, things where they appear close together frequently, gives us a little bit more information. And that's just an example using the most frequent term. We would probably look at things like skills, abilities, thinking about how people talk about the different sort of thinking, feeling, and doing of visual literacy. The other thing that we are looking at is the most distinct terms overall across all of the documents, which is a method called text frequency by inverse documents frequency, TF-IDF. And that tells us the terms that are the most distinct in that specific respondents use them a lot. And so since we included in the original 114 people who have different relationships to visual literacy, including outside of art and art history, like math, the public safety workplace person, we want to make sure that we are capturing those distinct perspectives, and this measure tells us what some of those terms are that come out of their interviews, which is something that we might not capture through coding or sort of straight most frequent analysis. So I'm going to advance our slide here, and we're going to talk about our timeline.
Yeah, so we are aiming, there's a finish line in place for this, hopefully. So we are looking at, again, just getting some more additional feedback from our stakeholders. We'll be presenting to the ARLIS virtual group in July 2020. We are hoping this fall to complete the qualitative coding and analysis and the text analysis and our visualizations. And then hopefully by January, February of next year, we'll have a draft companion document that we will present to this group to get some feedback on. And then by March or April of 2021, we hope to turn in the revised companion document to ACRL.
And one thing I want to mention, just for those of y'all that are interested in just some like preliminary things that we've noticed about our results, is that we're just seeing some things in terms of like expanding upon the meaning or connotation of critical literacies and incorporating more social justice themes into maybe our practice. And then we're really investigating this difference, you know, with skills and dispositions, talking about visual literacy as a continuum or as a process. And so that's just very short snippet of things that we're kind of seeing come out of the code book. And yeah, next month we're going to be putting everything into Deduce, and then we're going to be doing a sample to get that into rater reliability. So just some exciting things about the data that we're seeing, and just wanted to pop in and say that bit.
And yeah, so the first bullet there, just to signal boost the Art Library Society of North America virtual conference, I believe will be free this year. And so we're doing a session there. I know that there's a lot of overlap between IRIG and ARLIS, but not everyone who is an IRIG member may know or be involved with ARLIS, but we will be doing a presentation in there that will include some more participant feedback if you have thoughts about visual literacy or the companion document that we are developing. But also there will be just a whole slew of free professional development opportunities for you, presentations, webinars, etc. So that is all we have for you. And we just wanted to see if there are any questions, and here are our emails if you'd like to follow up with us about our research or about the task force. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Please feel free also to unmute yourself. And if there aren't any questions, I'll turn it back over to Jane. Just giving it like 30 more seconds. All right, Jane, I think the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Maggie, Katie, and Dana. That's great to hear about all your work and how you're seeking participant feedback on different levels. And I think it's actually a good thing that the ARLIS virtual conference is free, because it means you'll have a chance to get more input from people that may not have been able to attend otherwise. So look forward to that in July and to coming things from your task force. So the last part of this meeting is just, excuse me, a couple small business items. And the first is about the change in the leadership of IRIG, or Image Resources Interest Group. As I transition to past convener, my appointment ends tomorrow. I'd like to welcome our new convener for the year 2020-2021, who is Maggie Murphy. And so I'm sure many of you are already familiar with Maggie from her, not only this, but her previous involvement with the IRIG group. And as well, I'd like to welcome Jackie Fleming, who will be our incoming convener for 2020-2021. So welcome to Maggie and to Jackie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to, excuse me, briefly show our IRIG Google site. So I'm going to just share my screen for a moment. Desktop. And it's here. There. So if you see that, this is the IRIG Google site. And this is, there's the menu. It's a very simple site. The menu's here at the left. And so you can click on announcements that tells you about upcoming meetings. And then meetings and events is where we list our meetings. And also this is where, like with the past one, where the meeting recording will be linked. So those who have attended will get an email, but if you lose track of that email, you can always come to this Google site and get the information that way. So I'm going to stop sharing. So that's all we have on our agenda for today. And I'd like to thank all of our presenters for taking the time to present to our group. And I'll just ask if there's anything anyone would like to say before we close this meeting.
Jane, I wanted to mention to everyone here that we've gotten notice from ALA that our listserv will be switching over to the ALA Connect platform, along with all of the other interest group listservs and committees probably. And so I think they're being switched over automatically, but if you want to send an email out to the membership at any point, make sure that you're using the ALA Connect email address to do that rather than the old group email.
Right, I plan to do that. I'll probably do that tomorrow. Yes.
Your very last day.
Yeah, so yes, that's great.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention, so Jackie and I have talked about some of the things that we're hoping to do over the next year. And there are really two things at the top of the list. The first is hopefully convening a subcommittee to take a look at the Image Resources LibGuide that Jane and I had looked at, which I believe is linked from the Google site, but maybe not. If it isn't, I think
it's not.
It isn't? Okay. And that may be because we there are a lot of links on it. Some of them are probably it's a LibGuide that collects image collections under a vast variety of subjects and disciplines. And so it was migrated onto the ACRL LibGuide platform from an member's institutional, the person who created it, platform. And so as a group, making sure it's up to date, organized in a way that we think will be useful to the membership, having new resources added, and checking links. And so we're going to send something out to the list about anyone interested working on that. And then we're not sure what the situation is going to be with interest group and committee proposals for ALA programming for next year, given that the in-person ALA was canceled this year, and they may be rolling over accepted proposals from this year to next year. But we're interested in perhaps proposing something having to do with, let me see if I can, that is not what I want. Having to do with surveillance and facial recognition, overlapping with the idea of image resources, sort of education that public libraries do, questions of ethics about hosting image collections for researchers that have to do with facial recognition at universities, and perhaps co-sponsoring something with the political science or intellectual freedom groups through ALA. And so we'll probably send out something closer to the end of the summer when these proposals are usually due, or early September, about soliciting ideas for potential speakers on a panel, and anyone interested in working on the proposal. Again, not sure what the timeline is from ALA for this process this year of interest group or committee sponsored proposals for ALA annual next year, but that's something that we're interested in doing.
That's great, Maggie. That's a very timely proposal, especially now we're hearing all about, contact tracing and
yeah, absolutely.
Lots on surveillance.
Yeah. All right. So, yep. I think that's it from me and Jackie, and I want to welcome Jackie onto the leadership team. And
Thank
I'm
you,
excited
Maggie.
to have you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'm gonna mute myself and stop sharing my screen.
All right. Well, okay, that ends our program for today, and thank you everyone for attending. Great to hear from you all, and look forward to work of the group in the future. So thanks and bye-bye.
Thank you.